Ms. Carrata, did you want to comment on what Representative Mays was talking about?
I think it's been answered. I just wanted to mention that yes, while the local air tissue is going to get a higher level from a phone next to your head, say, what needs to be looked at, and there actually was just a study that came out on this, is that total full body exposure over time, because that's what's missing from the FCC limits, is looking at that cumulative exposure. So there have been studies done on, kids in kindergartens. There's a study out of Australia that looked at kids in kindergartens near cell towers and far from cell towers, and found, of course, that the kids near cell towers had that higher total exposure. So it's not so simple. It's not, you got to look at all the different pieces.
Thank you for that. We can move on. Representative Goldberg.
Hi, thanks. Yes, I'm back with a new battery. If I could talk to attorney, I believe it's Attorney Smith. Is that our attorney that's with us tonight?
I am with you.
Hi there. So while this has all been very interesting and thought-provoking, I'm trying to understand what really LU 31.032 is about. It's an agreement that it sounds like, and I joined late. I want to apologize. I had another commitment with another committee. If I understood, I sort of jumped in the middle of your talking points. This is an agreement, it sounded like you said, that we don't have a lot of degrees of freedom on changing because the FCC kind of sets the rules by which we play. Is that accurate? Or maybe you could just refresh our memory.
Yeah.
Of like what we can really change or even challenge. Like, what's our ring fence that we operate in?
Okay. Well, I'm going to distinguish between this particular agreement and the general state of the law with respect to regulation of this kind of equipment. It is primarily the province of the federal government. And the federal government has enacted a couple of laws, and FCC has enacted a series of regulations pursuant to those laws that define the lane of municipal regulation in a relatively narrow way, particularly compared to other kinds of activities that are generally under the purview of municipal regulation. Cities and towns have the ability to establish reasonable, whatever that means, standards for construction, for aesthetics, for the design of the cabinets and the equipment, to establish fees within a range established by the FCC, to act within a specific timetable. There's a provision in the FCC orders called the shot clock, which requires action within a fixed period of time, depending on the nature of the application, whether it's for a single facility or multiple facilities. All of those regulations have to be considered reasonable, with reasonableness defined by the federal statute that says that municipalities, and I'll paraphrase here, I can probably dig up the actual language if you like, that municipalities cannot act in a way that materially interferes with the deployment of the equipment. That's sort of the guardrail. That's the circle, I think, is the way that you described it, and that's a good way to look at it.
So if we were to say that tonight, and when we decided based on tonight's conversation, we don't want anything to do with this, and we didn't approve this agreement, and when it went to the floor of the board, we didn't approve the agreement. What would happen to us?
Well,
or what
I
are
think
the
it would.
likely outcomes?
Okay.
I know you can't.
Right. I'm a little reluctant to predict what the carriers might do, but among their options would be to decline to deal with Stanford, that they would decide that for this reason or any reason or no reason, they don't want to deploy this equipment in Stanford. Another option that they have would be to make an application through, the existing regulations in Stanford. And again, any further action beyond that would depend on what Stanford did. I know that I was involved in a case for the city of Hartford in which AT&T, and this is a matter of public record, so I can talk about it, made application for, I think, 7 facilities, and it was denied. And Hartford, AT&T sued Hartford under the federal statute, claiming that Hartford's actions were in violation of the Telecommunications Act and the FCC regulations. And ultimately, the Hartford, settled with AT&T and approved the units.
Any idea what that cost them in legal fees?
I can tell you, but I can't tell you.
Right.
It was not.
I mean, is it more than $1 million or
Oh,
less?
no, it wasn't $1 million. No.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we occasionally we have legal fees, and it's, it'd be nice to know what our potential exposure could be if we went down a litigious route.
Right. It depends on how far the litigation goes. I mean, this was settled before trial. I think there were motions for summary judgment, and the lawyers would know what that means. But it's a step preliminary to trial. Now, if in a case that goes to trial, gets appealed on top of that, and ultimately
gets
makes
expensive
to
quick.
the Supreme Court, you can add as many zeros as you like.
Yeah. One of the individuals mentioned that maybe we should think about setbacks. Is that something that I guess other municipalities have talked about setbacks relative to these micro cells or these new kinds of cell sites? Is that something that Connecticut law allows us as a municipality to set those kind of conditions, or is that out of our?
I think it would depend on, again, you would fall back on the reasonableness standard. Right now, and each city rather, is under this proposed agreement would develop some of their own aesthetic and construction standards. There's a guideline in here that talks about not having it's a setback from other similar facilities, not setback from any specific other kinds of uses, residential uses or schools or anything like that. I think that would probably be the subject of negotiation between the city and the carrier.
Would we be an outlier if we turn this agreement down?
Well, I can only speak to what's going on in Connecticut. I don't know.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, as I mentioned before, there are 5 cities. 2 have acted. The 2 that have acted have approved. It's pending in 3 cities, including Stanford.
Okay. It sounds, is it a reasonable conclusion for me to think that if we were not to approve this agreement and the carriers were to decide that they just didn't want to deal with us, fine, we'll leave you with the old technology. Good luck with that. We'd be probably at a competitive disadvantage relative to our neighbors that might allow this technology in their town. Is that
Well, I will only pass on what I have heard from other economic development officers in the other cities who hold that view.
okay? Yeah, okay. Interesting. So, okay. Well, I really appreciate your answering my questions. I'm more focused on this particular agreement and what we need to do to. I recognize that there's a lot of health concerns. I don't know enough about them to pass judgment on them, but I think the commercial issues are fairly clear and straightforward. If I can just ask one last question to our guests tonight, the individuals from the Environmental Health Trust. I am not familiar with your organization, and I'm sure you discussed this when you first came on. Could you tell me a little bit about who your organization is and its background, and just you're a completely new entity to me, so help me know who you are.
Oh, Deborah, you're muted.
Thank you. We have a website. We are ehtrust.org. We're a 15-year-old organization that was founded by me and two physicians at the University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute, where I was the director of the Center for Environmental Oncology. I myself have been a professor of epidemiology and toxicology. I have more than 220 publications, 11 monographs, 3 popular books. I've also...
So do you teach at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine?
I did, but I don't any longer. Okay. I was also visiting professor at Hadassah Medical School in Jerusalem, and I am currently visiting professor of medicine in Turkey, and actually I have a position in China as well. So I've done, and in the later years, I've done a lot of teaching at internationally, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, et cetera. We conduct research, we talk about it, and we try to explain to the public why and how to be safer with respect to avoidable environmental health hazards. We've worked on lead and air pollution, and now we've been working on wireless radiation and why and how you should reduce exposures to it in order to prevent harm, particularly to our children, especially to the developing brain, about which there's a lot of information out there. So I don't have the backgrounds for everyone on this panel as well, but I'm delighted to provide more information. The website speaks for itself.
Right.
We have also we have pretty good ratings around the globe because we've
right.
done.
And you're the ones that organized all the speakers tonight. Is that right? Were you the organizers?
I think it's been a group effort, but we worked with Representative Michelle's to put together this group. And I think you have the A team, especially with Blake Levitt, who is a member of your state, who has also pioneered in understanding this issue as a former New York Times science reporter who has been digging into this issue now for several decades. So you've got tremendous resources there. And as to your concerns about competitiveness, which are of course real and important, let me just say that you can compete to lead on this issue. I believe that people are going to want to come to an area that is greener and leaner and protects the health of all of its citizens. And while electrohypersensitivity is a rare phenomenon, people tend to know it if they're getting headaches or things are happening with direct exposure. But as Professor Chamberlain indicated, there are a lot of problems that people have that they don't even connect. They don't connect their insomnia to whether or not they've been sleeping with their iPad, falling asleep on their chest. They don't connect their arrhythmia to the fact that they've been exposed. And we think the science is pretty compelling at this point. The problem, as one of your colleagues indicated, is that we've all drunk the Kool-Aid. all of us. And nobody's saying we're going to go back to the Stone Age, but we need to rethink it. And I think that Stanford could become a leader in rethinking this and not necessarily worry that they're going to be behind the eight ball, but in fact become a mecca for those who want to see a safer system for their schools and for their citizens.
One last question. I seem to remember, is Robert Kennedy involved with your organization?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw something.
You did. There was something on a conspiracy website that somebody sent to me that said I was working for Robert Kennedy. I do not now, nor have I ever worked.
No. This was, I thought it, I just, in part of
what
the
is in common is that his organization takes on a lot of issues. One of the issues they have taken on is the issue of wireless radiation. And the Court of Appeal, the U.S. Court of Appeals ordered us to file our reply with Robert Kennedy's organization. Prior to that and subsequently, we have not worked with that organization.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if he used your name or something, or I remembered seeing something about environmental and trust in his name, and I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you for that.
Apparently he mentioned us on Joe Rogan. That's what somebody told me. I don't listen to Joe Rogan. I don't know about that, but someone said that.
I don't either. I'm more of a Colin McEnroe guy. Anyway, I thank you for your time tonight. And I will be studying the science of this a bit more to get myself informed. Thank you.
I'll be happy to send any of you that would like a new edition of my book, Disconnect, which was published in 2010 by Penguin Dutton, the subtitle of which was The Truth About Cell Phone Radiation. It wasn't a bestseller then, but we're hoping that it will become one in a new edition that will be coming out in November and December. And I'm happy to send any of you that would like. Sure,
that'd be lovely. You can send that to our office, and our staff will get it out to us. And good luck on your next edition. All right, thank you. Sadly I need to drop, but thank you very much.
Information. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Goa.